So, white Fischer. We looked in the previous videos briefly what Fischer played against e5 and against c5, his preferences after these moves. It should be said that his main rivals played either e5 or c5, so the majority of the games where Fischer was white, he had to face either Ruy Lopez or Sicilian. But there were, of course, other moves, and mainly he had to face e6, the French defense, and c6, the Caro-Kann, if we are talking about alternatives to the main moves e5 and c5. These openings actually caused, in different times, problems to Fischer, and he changed variations which he played with white. Although against the French defense after e4, c6, e6, he almost always played d4, d5, knight c3. He liked this move, this active main move. But it should be said that after e4, e6, Fischer also played in several games the move d3, which white tries to play here after d5, knight d2. He continues with g3, bishop g2, and the so-called King's Indian attack. White is playing the King's Indian on the first hand. And for instance, his game against Magmasuran from the interzonal tournament in Sousse, Fischer played this line, and he showed how dangerous. So let's make a few more moves. How dangerous these positions for black can be. Knight d2, knight f6, g3, black plays c5, bishop g2, knight c6, knight f3, bishop e7, castle, castle. And now white advances this type of position, and he plays on the king side with knight h1, h4, so after knight f1, b4, let's make a few more moves, h4, a5, now bishop f4, and Fischer showed that these positions can be very dangerous for black. And actually here he played a3 and showed also how to prevent black's counterplay, and he won a very nice game against Magmasuran. I remind you, this is a game which ended in a well-known combination by sacrificing the queen on h7. And actually also against Sicilian, now that I'm thinking, after e4, c5, sometimes after knight f3, e6, he would also play d3 with the idea to get the same type of positions. When white plays g3, bishop g2, Fischer played also several games after knight f3, e6, d3. Against Caro-Kann, after e4, c6, Fischer's beloved move order was to play here knight c3 when he was young, d5, knight f3, but then in 1959 a so-called Caro-Kann tragedy happened to him when the Soviet grandmasters realized that this is a weak point in his opening repertoire, and they played against him Caro-Kann. In that tournament in Yugoslavia 1959, that was a long tournament where players were facing each other 4 times. So Keres played twice against him, Caro-Kann, and he won both games. Petrosyan played it, Smyslov, and he scored very badly against Soviet players, but he was very principled and very stubborn. He always played this system. All the players played against him knight g4, h3, take, take, e6, d3 or knight f6, g3, bishop b4. So this position was played by these grandmasters, and they scored very. I think Fischer lost 1-4 against Soviet grandmasters by playing with white this system. So later he had to change his repertoire against Caro-Kann, and he played the pawn over attack, d4, d5, take, and c4. But he also played, for instance, against Petrosyan in 1970, after e4, c6, d4, d5. He played the system take on d5, bishop d3, a system which was considered harmless until this game, and after this game it became more popular. It is still, from the opening point of view, it doesn't promise white advantage, but in this game, Fischer-Petrosyan from 1970, from the match Soviet Union against the rest of the world, Fischer took a convincing revenge after knight c6, c3, knight f6. So Fischer-Petrosyan, 1970. Bishop f4, Petrosyan played bishop g4. His idea is clear: to play e6, bishop d6, and black doesn't have any opening problems. If we look at the structure, it's sort of a Carlsbad pawn structure with reversed colors. But Fischer played here queen b3, and soon he won the opening battle. The game continued: knight a5, queen a4. Here black should have returned back knight c6, but Petrosyan played bishop d7, queen c2, e6, and this was a psychological victory in the opening by Fischer, because the bishop remained on d7, so he didn't come to a5 or g4 before playing e6, and white has here attacking prospects. So the game continued: knight f3, black played queen b6. Petrosyan wants to exchange the bishops, but white played a4. Very concrete approach, typical for Fischer in the opening also. He solved strategical problems by involving also some tactical concrete variations. So the weakness of square b3 black cannot use. Knight b3 simply white plays rook a2, and the knight on b3 black is forced to keep the queen on b6 always to protect this knight. Very unpleasant, and white can always, if he wants to play knight bd2. In the game, black played here rook c8, white played knight bd2, so protecting this square b3, knight c6, creating the threat knight b4, but queen b1. This happened in the game. Now black played knight h5. In my opinion, this is a very strange and even bad move, because the knight remains on h5, and after very precise move bishop e3, white has always this idea knight e5, and if black takes on e5, then white will take with the pawn with tempo by attacking the queen on b6. Now the pawn on h7 is hanging. Black played h6, and after knight e5 the position is very unpleasant. Petrosyan returned here knight f6, which was a recognition of his opening failure, because his initial intention was to take here on e5, take on e5 and play bishop c5, but he missed that white can play here a5, and after playing a5, white will continue to play g4, and the knight remains on h5, so black has a bad position here. So after knight a5, knight e5, knight f6, white played h3, and he has a solid opening advantage. White won this game by a direct attack in less than 40 moves. So these are Fischer's main variations with white when he played d4. As I said, in the match against Spassky in 1972, the World Championship match, after failing with the white pieces in the southern attack in the fourth game, in the sixth game, Fischer played c4 against Spassky. Spassky didn't really prepare against c4 or d4. although he was advised, for instance, by Korchnoi that Fischer might change and play d4 in the match. So Spassky simply thought that he would play the very solid Queen's Gambit, the Makagonov variation, which he did in that game, the 6th game, but he was very nicely and subtly outplayed by Fischer. So Fischer showed in this match against Spassky a very flexible and very universal approach. He didn't only change his repertoire for this match, but he also showed some deep ideas, some deep opening ideas in this new type of closed openings. So Fischer also, with the white pieces, he showed a very deep idea in a hedgehog pawn structure, but I think that I will talk about this one talking about Black Fischer, because it had more influence for hedgehog type of positions. Thank you.